The IML courses were some of the most rewarding I've taken in college because not only could I produce something technically, but I understood how digital culture is going to affect my major and my work.
They're supposed to be the generation that's always online.
Well, I usually just go on there and talk to my friends like 8 a.m.
They're always plugged in, but how many are clued in to what's going on in the world?
Online, I really just go and look for weather.
Almost all of them are online, but less than half of the nation's teens pay any attention to the news.
No amount of technology glitter solves this.
Now hear from teens, teachers, and industry experts about getting kids to tune in.
It's really about making news that's actually relevant to teens and explaining to them how it's important and why they should be interested in the news.
A Harvard University survey found nearly 2/3 of teens basically don't care about daily news.
And so in order to make these websites that teens are actually paying attention to useful for the news, they need to put interesting stories on there and links to interesting stories or applications that, are more interactive with games or something that you find out how what's going on, in the Middle East relates to us here. And so that was really what I found out about technology mixing with traditional news. I also have an About page, which is where I actually filmed a movie of myself. I'm a senior at the University of Southern California, talking about, what I did in the project, and I have some scenes of me going to the classes and having our discussions and editing the piece, and I explain kind of what programs I used. I've been editing the videos on Avid, and I'm putting together a web page using Fireworks and Dreamweaver. And I'm also going to be hosting the videos on YouTube and MySpace and Facebook, which are really popular with that demographic. So check it out. I kind of just explain the process, so in case anyone wants to know and is interested, and especially for journalism students, this is what I did, and so I wanted them to be able to see that too. The next page is the data, and that's where I have all my survey results from 100 students that I surveyed. And I also have my research and works cited. The last page is my interviews, and I took the 4 main experts, if you will, that I interviewed. And so I have Dana Boyd, who does a lot of work with social networking sites and teens.
The tricky thing with Facebook and the apps is a lot of the apps are structured around sharing, not consuming. So, okay, great, I have, all the headlines of today on my profile. Why?
One suggestion from teens is to add headlines to the general news feed or create a scrolling news ticker across the top of the page.
It's less about it being Facebook and more about finding out what kinds of headlines this population wants to know.
Robert Nowes, who works at USC as the online journalism review.
If you are touching people on the level where they're emotionally engaged with you, you can make this sort of thing happen.
J.W. Starr, which was really interesting, he finds new talent for MTV News. MTV News has a good platform for teens because it kind of grabs their attention for a little bit and then it goes back to regular programming.
For decades, the network that teens have turned to for entertainment has consistently managed to report news that matters to its audience.
Our talent on the channel are very young, they're very, I would say attractive, conversational, and people, when you watch them, you feel comfortable with, you want to be like them, you want to, relate to them, and at the same time feel like, they could be your best friends.
And then Eric Olkin, who works at USC but also at the LA Times, and he's the one kind of thinking about what new applications can be put on Facebook and MySpace to reach that demographic.
I've been doing some serious talking about Facebook.
Olkin says the LA Times knows this is the way to reach a younger audience.
I think what we're having a hard time with is creating something that's truly sort of novel and unique that people are actually going to use.
If you're really looking at grabbing a young audience that's still making decisions about media, you've got to be online, and you've got to be online with social media because that's where they're at this point. I was able to see how technology is really affecting everything, and that just broadens your horizon and how powerful that is. I thought that's one thing I really took from the IML.